So today I'm going to be having some fun with Epicore 2021 Application Studio, which is really fun because there was no presentation up until this morning. Jose was going to be doing this, so we're kind of letting Jose see if he pops into the meeting here. Because I can't even say this is hot off the press. It's still on the press.
You got 1 minute and then you're stuck.
Oh, I was like, no, that's later. That's stump, not stuck. Awesome. I think I got all my screens laid out so I can keep an eye on the chat window, keep an eye on the questions as they pop in, and I got the presentation on the other. And while that last minute is running, I'm going to make sure that my Epicore education world also pops up.
And Beth said she'll help you with questions.
Awesome. Yeah. I don't see Jose popping in here. So I'll go ahead and get started. It's now 1 o'clock. We're going to take a look at the application studio here in Epicore 2021. It's also called Epicore 11, and some people also call it Kinetic. And it's getting very confusing because we really all need to pick one name for this software and follow it. I call it Epicore 11. That's the name that's out on the Epic Web Portal when you have to download software. So if you have to look for it and download and install the software, that's what it's called, and that's where you're going to find it. It's also called 2021.1 and 2021.2. But we're going to be taking a look at the Application Studio, and the Application Studio is the equivalent of what used to be called customization mode. So inside my customization mode, we've got the main interface when we go into the Application Studio. This is located under System Management, and there is no menu for it. It is literally right under System Management on the menu. So it's the very first thing under the System Management world. When we open the Application Studio, we're going to go ahead and see. You used to have to right-click, have developer mode, be able to get into developer mode. Now I can go straight into the Application Studio from the main menu. On the left-hand side of the Application Studio, we have a little menu here that goes all the way down to the Help button. On this left menu, I have the menu options. I have the main panel, which is where all of the editors will sit. And it took me a little because I couldn't find out how to close editors without closing the whole thing. So I'll go over that. Also, the slide out panels are also here. So when I'm looking at the application map, I'm going to see the application that I'm working in, the different tree structure that map follows, and then the slide out panels that it flows with. Over on the right-hand side, I've got my object toolbox and properties. This is going to be where I can see, if I click on a item, I can see the properties regarding it. If I'm looking to build a item onto the canvas, this is where I would be in the form design or the form view mode, where I can add objects onto it, drop-down boxes, combo boxes, date selectors, whatever I'm looking for. There's also this lovely little button in the software that's called feedback, and this never really existed in the past. This is really fun because when I want to turn around and send a message back to Epicore regarding the application, I can turn around and click on it and send that back over. Let's head over down to my system management. Gotta be able to click the right one. And I must have it already running somewhere. Okay. We're going to pop out of this and reload that item. So in my Application Studio, it does pop up I'm going to have all of my different areas. This is all the different areas within Epicore that you're familiar with customizing. Instead of going into ABC entry, I would just go pull up that application ABC entry and then hit the edit button. That's going to allow me to go into it. These are the components that are available for the applications that are out there. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up just a basic one here of part entry. I think everybody is familiar with part entry. It's going to go ahead and apply the filter and find me that form. When I go ahead and pull up the application designer for part entry, this is my little feedback button that pops up here on the top. When I click on this, I can now turn around and send information directly back to Epicore. Rate this page. What do you like? What needs to be improved? If I want to send anything with it, I can attach files. If I'm getting an error message inside it, I can attach it. Then I can go ahead and put my name, my email, include info about my current environment, and I can go ahead and submit that information directly to Epicore. Epicore is monitoring this information. When you send that feedback up there, they are monitoring and keeping an eye on what's going on out here. I almost sent a lovely feedback this morning because I couldn't easily close. I couldn't figure out how to close these objects when I turned around and opened them. So here I have the different areas of my part. Over on the right, I'm going to have new layers. So these were customization layers in the past. A new layer will go ahead and create a new layer on top of the part screen. Am I looking to do it on part maintenance, the main panel, the details panel? Do I want to do it on the revision or the detail tab for revision or the alternate methods panel? So every one of Epicore's panels, what used to be tabs, are now considered these panels in here in Application Studio. Let me go ahead and take a look here. On the left panel, before we get too far into this, is the application map. I also have a button for the layout, which is all the different panels. I have data rules in here. I have the events that are happening, data views, which are the data behind the screen, and then I can also look at what's my publication history. Have I customized it 42 times and left all of them in the software, or is this my first one that I'm making for it? This left panel is going to become kind of crucial to you so that you can make sure where am I in the customization development of this new screen. As I bounce through them, you're going to see, okay, I had looked at part. I was looking at the publication history, the details. Let me see if I can pull that back up here. So I've got my application map, my layout. These are all the different screens and the layouts throughout the entire part system. As I drill into them, I've got the main tab, I've got my details, then inside details, I had lots, accounting. These are all going to be the same as the screens that you were familiar to using either in the Classic or the Kinetic. In addition, I also have the data rules. This is what happens when data events occur. I also have the events, which is when the component is hit, when the data gets updated. I can build a user-defined action. If I have a custom one, I want to print the sales order pick list when a sales order is done. If I'm not using advanced print routing, I can also create a user-defined action that I turn around and put into the event behind that screen. I also have data views. This is the data behind the part. So anything regarding the part, I can turn around and search and pull back that data view and have access to anything that's in it. This is similar to what was in your data views tab inside customization entry. And the last one, or second to last, was my publish history. This is where I'm going to see everything that I have published for this part entry layer. Has it been published? We'll get into what is publishing versus what is saving. I can save a customization while I'm developing, but it's not deployable into the menu until I turn around and publish it. And then I'll see the published history when it was pushed out to the users. The other area inside here, and the last one, is going to be my help system, Epicore Help. Totally functioning out here. We're configured to go off to the Epicore web. There is an application studio help page that can take you through. How do I do this? How can I see what's going on? What are the different areas in here? As well as, hey, there's a quick start guide so that I can start learning how to do this. If the customer or you have multiple customizations that need to be converted to Kinetic, I would recommend going through this quick start guide and taking a look at what's out there. This is all accessible from the help button here down on the bottom. By using the Epicore Online Help, as they make updates to the content and publish it, you have access and you'll see the latest and greatest. They're updating this pretty much every couple of weeks. So the next one is looking at the layouts for my form. So I have part maintenance, I have the main part entry. These are the tabs or the panels inside the Kinetic application. I can say look at all parts, go ahead and search for a part, apply a filter. I have the buttons for the options, export, show, hide summaries, what happens when they click on it, and then the grid down here, what part have I pulled back? So if I'm pulling multiple parts back or if I'm pulling a single part back, I may want to go ahead and take a look at that. Let's go ahead and keep up with the layouts tab here. Clicking through the different areas is just going to be getting yourself familiar with what's available, what all panels, what pops out, what slides down, what expands. The Kinetic interface is a whole brand new interface for the Epicore application. I know a lot of people are upgrading to version 11 and they're still using the classic view. This is a safe way to get your company on board, but you do still need to start taking a look at the Kinetic view, getting your users familiar with using it and moving them forward. This is the direction of where the software is going. Just want to make sure you don't get stuck or lost in the back. But clicking through the areas of the layout allows me to customize any one of the panels or any one of the slide outs as they pop up through here. So I can hover over an item and take a look at what goes on, review its properties. The properties are over here with the toolbox. I had mentioned hover over the tab to see the close button or the X. So it took me a second to go ahead and find that one because I didn't find it very intuitively. So my publish history, the second I hover over, I can see I can close it. There's no other place out here that says, hey, you can close this. So I close it. Now these are the two panels I'm working with, my application map and my part maintenance. These editors are what I have available to work with in my development mode. When I select an item, I'm going to go ahead and pull something here, or I'm going to click on this. You'll see the perimeter highlights. I can delete it from the form. I can move it around. Over here, I'm going to see what the properties are for that box. So this is an ERP text box. This is its ID, the label in front of it. Pick your part. Now I can turn around and modify it and make it easier for someone to understand so that when they see it, now it says pick your part or enter your part number here. What is the behavior for this object? On search, on blur, on create, these are events that can happen regarding this one object. Comments. If you modify a customization layer or modify an element that's on the screen, leave yourself comments and notes as to why you did it, what was the purpose, who was the person it was for, so that When you go to do an upgrade 5 years from now, is that person even still with us? Do we need to move this customization forward, or can we let it go? By leaving yourself a good bread trail and comments as to what you're doing will help you manage these better as you move into the future. The data behind that field. This is key field part number, epi binding search description. So this is the data that's bound behind this field. The layout for that object, it's left aligned. I can have it right aligned. I can put it in the center. I can change the width of this box. So it's only 100 characters wide instead of the default. I can modify any of the objects that are out on the screen. That becomes my layer, my customization. What is the state of the object? Can the user personalize it? Can they customize it? Is it hidden or disabled? Is this a read-only field? Since this is a search window and a search field, I'm not going to make that read-only. I need to allow the users to edit, type something in there, and have that record pull back. Is this the field that automatically gets focused when this form loads? So if I go into part maintenance, do I want the pick your part field to be autofocus? That's where the mouse is going to go when the screen loads. 9 times out of 10, it used to go to the part field. There is no part field here, so we may want to have it go to the search field so that we can type in a part and drill directly to what we need. So that I would say, hey, I want to make that my autofocus. As we look down here, we're at the bottom. These are the advanced. Let's see if we can scroll down here. So for the advanced, what's the maximum length? Do I need to do a regex pattern search? So I could also turn around, do a pattern in here and follow a regular expression. Floating label, no floating label, I'm sorry. Autocomplete, meaning should it start typing in the rest of the part number as they start typing it in? Do I want to autocorrect? Auto capitalize? Do I want to turn spell checking on? These are all of the extended attributes that are going to be put onto this object. And my label text, when they hover over, what do I want it to be for the label text here? So I get to control all of these capabilities or all of these attributes for this item. Hold on 1 second here. Okay. So my layouts are going to really flow in to this, telling me, hey, what do I want to fix on this? Now I chose part maintenance. In the application map, I could have said, hey, let's go look at the alternate details. Now go ahead and open that panel. Now I can see the panel here for the details for the alternate method. So depending on what area you want to customize or where you are in the form, you would open up that panel and then customize that one area. The data rule.
We do have one question before you move on. We have a question. Can a right field be forced to be all capitalized when creating it?
Yes. So if I want to use a regular expression or if I want to set capitalization, I should be able to turn around and set that on here. Let me scroll back down here. Auto capitalize. So yes. Now that I think is going to do the camel case. So each first word, I would need to turn around. Now, are you talking, who is this, Kyle? When you're creating a new part, this is a search field. This isn't the new part field. So putting in a part number, do you want to force the new part number be all capitals? Then I may want to turn around and use a regular expression or a data validation on it. Did that answer Kyle's question there? I'm hoping it did. Customer name, yes, wanting to make sure those all go in camel case or in total uppercase. Like when you did the example, it was customer name with the first letter capitalized. I believe that's going to be the auto capitalize and saying turn on.
Yep, looks like you answered it.
Yay, okay. Otherwise, I'm like, we'll go ahead and take a look at it here. We are in a new layer here, so I'm not changing what I've already created for the demo here today, but we'll take a look at that as well. And I'm going to go ahead and save this layer. We'll take a look at what it looks like. So I created a layer called camel case. The search doesn't look like it's doing that because that record does not exist. Do we have any part numbers in there with multiple letters? No. I was like, otherwise we may see that too. This took us a little further ahead in our demo, but this is the preview mode of my new form. It is not published to a menu. It's not saved yet even. It is strictly on my Application Studio canvas here in preview mode. When I'm done previewing, making sure that things look right, and yes, they're okay, this fits. I close out. I'm going to come back to the Application Studio here for the part maintenance. Now I can turn around and say save it, or I can turn around and publish it. This can now be put on the menu as a default published customization for people. So back on my next second step before we get that far down the rabbit hole, we're going to take a look at data rules behind the events. So if I have an ABC rule on the ABC codes, so on the part warehouse, manual ABC is equal to a value, set the value to false. When this condition occurs, do these actions. This is a data rule that I put that is a system default here on the ABC rule for the part warehouse screen. So this rule is already out here. I can modify this rule, change it. I can set conditions to it, and I can set actions to it besides the actions and conditions that are already out here. I have another question here from Mason Asmar over at Power Solutions. Will my existing screen form customizations in 10.2.500 work the same way after the upgrade to 11.1? Any customizations written in the classic view will need to be rewritten into Application Studio for Kinetic. I don't believe they're going to migrate directly over. Yes, the customizations will now be considered layers. There was a question from John Meyer. The customization, or can a customization contain all customizations for a screen? So yes, I can turn around and put them all behind one called camel case, or I can have different customizations for different areas that I turn around and deploy into the solution for all of part maintenance. So I'll try and keep an eye on the question box. Thanks, Beth, for reminding me. I'm like, hey, you got questions up here. These data rules can be turned around and put on any of the data that's displayed on the screen. These data rules are then enforced by the system and become part of the application experience for your user. Here in part maintenance, I turned around and created a sample. When building your solution, I'm going to turn around and have, I created this one called camel case for capitalization. Over here is where I change what layer I'm working on. So I have my special part, which I built for the user group. I can search, I can merge layers together, or I can create a new layer. It's all kind of hidden behind the create new layer button. So just so that everybody knows, you click on the create new is where you also maintain and edit the ones that you have. So I threw this one out there for the user group meeting, and I added a couple things over to the part screen. On my special part, I turned around and added a few things to it. So I'll go ahead through my layout, pull up my special part, and as you see here, I turn around and put a web browser out here, and I put a message for the user group meeting. I tied events onto those objects that I threw onto my canvas. When I created my layer, I was presented with my toolbox of all my components, the user-defined objects. You can define your own objects that you throw out there, build your own. Widgets can be added and then thrown onto it, as well as supplied by other people. So these widgets can become a Epi Users Help shared resource for the community.
Hey,
I
Kevin,
just grab.
what indicates the layers to be used on a screen?
So when I turn around and have my screen, I'm going to turn around and specify which layer goes with it. When I turn around and go to the menu, I'm going to have what's called through. So on mine, I created a special part entry layer here onside it. I put it above the main, so I know it applies to everything for part entry. If I put a layer inside the link part screen, I would turn around and pull that here and link it to the special part entry and then merge those together. So if I build one on a subcomponent much further down in the panel, I would need to merge that with the other so that both become available. Thanks, Beth. So I just threw the widget out here for the web browser. I called it CBI Land. I left the Epicore search for the part out there. And I just grabbed a button and dragged it over here like this and said, hey, throw a button out on the form too. And I've got button one that I just threw out. Getting them to position is a little bit rough, moving them around, making sure that, yes, which one's where. This is going to become an art that's going to take a little time. Don't expect to be a professional developer on day one. If I don't like the object that I threw out here, I can just hit the little delete icon and get rid of it. It's now gone. When I threw my widget out here for the web, as I click on the object, once it's selected, it has a perimeter around it. I can look at the properties for that widget and see I gave it a title called CBI Land, and then I gave it a URL to go out to our website. I could put the bank website on bank statement processing screen so that they can see the bank online account and they can turn around and use it while they're doing bank statement processing at the same time. So tying these together and making them match, this is definitely going to become a little bit of a challenge, but it's nothing more than adding a web browser component onto the Epicore 10.2 and earlier versions in the classic system. I can also have what is the behavior of this web widget. I have a blur and uncreate. What are my comments? Again, is there any data tied to it? Is there a key field that populates this web browser? When it comes to shipping tracker, I may want to bind this data field to the tracking URL and a combination for the tracking link. Now I can turn around and just put a web browser with my proof of delivery pod, and somebody doesn't have to click the button to view that. In addition, what is my layout for this? I changed the size because looking at a web browser in 100 by 100 pixel, you're not going to see an awful lot of it. The state of the object, personalizable and customizable, and the advanced settings. Is there a token? Is there any user context that goes with this? The objects in Kinetic are going to be a little bit different than what we're familiar with seeing in customization mode. It's just going to take a little bit of time to learn what are all these abilities and what can I utilize in the software. Every object that I put on the system is going to have an event with it. If I put it out there, it has an event. So I put a button out here. The button is also going to have an event for it. Let's try and click it so that it's selected. So my behavior for the button, I just threw a button out there. It's a box. I gave it a label, emug message. The behavior, when the user clicks it, or when it blurs, or on creation of the object when the form loads, I have 3 different places for the behavior of this event. As you see, I don't have any code here because the plus sign shows I can add code. The triple dot ellipse shows I already have code here. So my code was real simple. I turned around and built the on-click event. It showed me my control box. I told the system to show me a little dialog, and then I dragged onto the canvas, exit when it's done. So in my toolbox, I have any of my components, communicator broadcast, combo refill, condition, ERP message, file transfer. All of these components can be added to my canvas on the button click event that I'm looking for. Console write. Do I need to kick off a little bit of code in the background or have a function happen? Data actions. Do I need to view data view condition? Do I need to clear it? What am I doing? Setting a value, setting a property. The dialogues, do I show a dialogue? Dialogue show the system or search show. Do I pop up the part search window when they click on the button? Since I'm already on the part search window, I probably don't need a search show to pop up when I click a button for it. I'm just going to use the part field. I chose the dialog show. Then I have the events behind that. So we'll take a look at the dialog show item. The event here, when the user clicks OK or cancel to my dialog, what was the event that I wanted to happen? Okay, when they click OK, we go to exit. When they click yes, no, cancel. So on my dialog show, I'll go over here to the properties for it. And I went ahead, parameters is already extended. So I chose for the parameters, what do I want to do? OK or cancel? Yes, no, cancel, yes, no, cancel, or an alert. I chose OK, cancel for our demo today. When the user clicks on the OK, it goes ahead and close. The message that I display to the group, this is what pops up. I can put an event on yes, on no, on OK, or on cancel. I'm only showing the OK or cancel. I didn't give it really anything to do for the on cancel, but for the on click event, I turned around and put that out there and said, what's my behavior? I can also have on success, on error, on empty, put comments behind it, or have miscellaneous, a data view that's tied to it. So on mine, I just put a little message box out there that just popped up a panel and showed us. These are considered events for the object. So on this box click on my special part entry, here's my box. Then I turned around and said, okay, give me an event for on click. When the user clicks that button, this is what happens. So I had mentioned also for these events, just clicking through them, learning what all is available. What can I do? It is going to be a learning curve. So for your developers that are out there, hey, trying to figure out what all can I do with the objects? What are my capabilities within it? Is just going to be going through and clicking through and seeing what all is exposed that I can have access to right out of the box. This is going to handle 90% of the inquiries that people build for their solutions. Others are going to be a little more complex, and we're going to have custom functions follow in the background, but I can have those functions be executed as a behavior of clicking the button. So I can call my function just as well as I can call the show me the yes, no dialog box and the cancel button. It's just taking a different spin on how do I do this. We have years of working with customization layer. Now we need to do it in the application studio. Go ahead and kind of join us here. We hit the data rules. the events that we were looking at when an event occurs, reviewing the actions. So I can also do an on-form event load. Very similar, a lot of people would do that when their form loads. I want certain things to occur or certain objects to refresh the data load. That's just adding the object to the screen and adding an onload event that goes out and populates that object. Clicking through the events that are possible is going to be the other area. Let me go ahead and advance. So, components, combo refill, conditions, all of these are a new tool set for everybody, unless you guys are already doing Application Studio development. For the average person, this is going to be a new area where you need to get your feet wet with how do I write this? What do I have access to? How do I program the switch or the if condition? Doing this into a low code mode is different than just writing C# code. We're familiar with writing C# and VB code in older versions of Epicore. Now we're kind of using the graphical interface to build that code behind. When I turn around and throw that action onto the editor canvas, so I pick the event that I want to do, it gives me a canvas. Now I can turn around and drag those events onto it. So title set, form load event. What do I want to have done when I turn around and move through these? Saving your work was also a fun part for me to learn because, like I had mentioned, hey, where did my form go? How do I get back to it? This took me a second to figure out because I found out I can save the code. This saves all of my events, all of my objects that I've been building here. It's not going to let you turn around and add something and put yourself into a problem because it's a low code. It's not like you had to compile my code and make sure it works. You'd have to compile your function to make sure it works. But it's not like you had to go in and press F5 and test your code before you could save your customization, then go back into the application and test it. So the nice thing with Kinetic is I have this little preview button which says, hey, show me my code in working form. It's going to go ahead and pull up my CodaBears website popped up. My search is still here. And I have my emug message button. This is a fully working web browser. It will turn around and navigate the web just as if you open Google or Chrome. The emug message, I programmed my little box. I put a parameter in there and said, hey, pop this out. So my little panel pops up with an informational dialogue for everybody. Says, hey, welcome to the user group meeting online. I have OK and cancel. Those are my two buttons. Cancel does exactly what cancel does, do nothing. The OK button is going to follow my little code that said, hey, exit. It did the exact same thing. So my little button, well, yes, it is a small little demo for today. It's nothing super cool, but it works the same as the message boxes or the buttons that we would put on a form in the past before in earlier versions of Epicore. So I am in what's called preview mode. I am not in the real application. I am not in what a user would see when they go to the menu. This is running my application kind of in test mode. In version before Epicore 11, you would have to right click on the menu item, select your customization layer, take a look at it in test mode, go through it, close out while you still had the customization open if you didn't want to go back and forth. Now I can just hit that little preview button and see what it looks like. When I'm done previewing, I just close out. Takes me right back to my canvas where I was doing my development. I did hit a couple times during preview where I bounced into preview mode, then bounced back out, then bounced back in, and I would get mirror messages that, hey, this is not here, and I would have to get out of Application Studio altogether and then go back into it. This is the same type of problems. It's just losing session set where you are in the application It's just this is now an application studio wrapper around customization development entry. At least that's how I try to think of it. Clicking through all of the different actions of what can be done. When I look at an object, or I throw another one out here, all of these are available. I can integrate with Windows, select a folder. So if I want to throw this out here next to my eMug button, I now have a file box folder selector. Let's take a look at what this looks like. Going out and adding a few of these things, take a look at what happens. So if I click on this, it's going to pull up my Windows file folder. So I can turn around and add files, add attachments. When they select a file, what would be my output from this, or what do I want to have happen after they click the event and select a folder? Now I can turn around and drag and drop with my low code what I want to have happen. Do I want to load that in through DocStar? Do I want to load it in through regular document attachment? Do I want to read the CSV file and then perform action on the data that was in it? So it's just giving us a file explorer box and putting it out here for us to use. We'll pop back over here. All of these are capable. It's just getting familiar with what all is out here that you have to work with. It's a new toolbox set. In versions earlier, we would go up to the toolbox and we would go take a look through everything that was available and what can we use? How do we use it the best? Same thing. I'm going to recommend that you get your feet wet with this. Do I have to turn Kinetic on for the whole world? No. Can I go into Application Studio and start playing around with things, make up things? Yes, and that's what I'm going to recommend people start getting their feet wet with how to do this. Take a look at all of the different components. I did not put that into the presentation. If you want to take a look at the video, you'll see them, but I would say open up Application Studio, go to build a layer, and then take a look at what components are available. What can I throw out on the system to be able to handle this thing? So I have the file selector. I also have an upload file capability that's built right into it. So this is a component that's already in here because people like to, hey, I want to be able to upload a file straight to the system. User-defined functions. I did not have any in this training database to be able to show out to you. I know Dylan had done a demo last year on application functions. I know we have talked about it. Jose and Hasso have introduced us to it. A handful of people have talked about the functions. These user functions can be put into here and added as a user-defined item. Widgets can also be built. Epicore had a website widget, so I went ahead and used it, just threw it out here. I added the URL, I changed the properties for the widget or what I wanted to happen. That's all I had to do. There's pretty much no code behind this. I just told it, give it a title and give it a URL to load. I could have bound the URL and said, hey, go ahead and look at the data and set the URL equal to the data field, like on ShipVia, where I have that URL for the tracker. So I can already do some of that. We've got a question here from Andrews. Can we take someone's personalization and redeploy them? That I'm not familiar if that's available here in the new version. I would have to poke around the personalization. In the past, you used to be able to export them and then share them with others. I haven't tried doing that in the Kinetic interface. I just know that that was available in the classic interface. The events that we can click through, definitely go in and take a look at what's available. Different objects have different behaviors and different capabilities behind them. A button is going to have a click event. Address format is going to control the format of the address item. So each thing's going to have different properties behind it. The best way to take a look at these is throw them out on the canvas. I've got my address, so I have my new line here. Go take a look at the properties behind it. What's going on with this thing? Total size, available actions behind it. ID, the text, going in and learning all of the capabilities. I haven't found a perfect map yet that shows you what are all of the abilities for the different components that you can put out on the system. If you don't like it, just click the delete button. It'll get rid of it while you're playing with it. Getting your feet wet is really the goal here with the application studio. We already covered the event, the editor canvas. Saving your work. Let me pop over to this screen here. So I had mentioned, wait, go back. Saving your work to a new layer and giving that layer a name. Then testing your application in that preview mode before we even publish it. We're testing the application to make sure that it works. Once we verify that it works, then we're going to turn around and save and publish that layer out. So when I'm looking at my customization in App Studio, I'm going to say, this is saving it. I can say, hey, save everything. Once I like what I have, then I'm going to go ahead and publish it. Now I can turn around and add it, put it on menus, and deploy it to people.
We have a question that just came in.
Yep, I was trying to read the fine print. It's on my laptop monitor. It's really hard.
Yeah. It says, do you develop and test and somehow move it to live? How does that work?
Yes,
And that's
I
from
do
Mike.
have solutions where I can turn around and export these from the App Studio and then import them into another. If I don't want to deploy this to the menu and just keep doing the development, some people do their development live. I'm not going to recommend this as the best thing, but moving forms around, changing things like that, I'm not too worried about doing in live. I'd be more worried about adding custom code or events that turn around and occur against other data, and then doing that in a test bed or a pilot before it goes out. So we'll normally recommend to clients, go ahead and do your development in pilot or something, have your users do their sign-off testing and test. Once it's accepted, then we port it over to production.
Okay, and Mazen wants to know, does version 11.x support BPMs?
Yes, all the BPMs are still out there. Method directives and data directives are still out there. Those are all server-side objects, so I'm not too worried about supporting those. It's the client side is really where the Kinetic layer kind of crippled a handful of people because they wanted things to fire on the client side, not necessarily on the server. The method directives, the data directives, these are server-side objects, not necessarily client side. On my saving thing, I'm going to go ahead and publish this. And we're going to kind of talk about this because once I publish this app, now my special part entry layer exists out there for part entry. When I turn around and get out of this, I can go ahead and hover, click them one at a time, get out of Application Studio. Because I published it, now I can exit. Hopefully, come on. Save my changes? Sure. I don't think I changed anything in the last click, but just in case something happened, I'll go ahead and let them do it.
Hey,
When
Calvin,
I
I have a question for you. There's different colors in the tree there. Some things appear to be grayed out and some things appear to be white. What does that signify?
This is a virtual page inside part details. Then I have the revisions, which is kind of like the header for the whole section of detail, alternate methods, inspection plan, and then these are the pages inside. So if we think of revisions as the tab called revisions, but then inside it was the detail. The detail is the one that turned around and had the information on it. When I go to edit revision detail, come on. Hopefully we're not stuck here. I'm going to say we are since it's not loading. Generally, it's pretty quick in here, and that may be because I hit the exit button. It may have lost control of which one I was on, even though I had the application map still open. Yeah, we'll just go right back into it. That is one of the other new nice things in it, is it loads pretty darn tootin' quick. So it's not like customization where I had to close out and then beg to get back into it. This one moves a whole lot quicker. We were in part entry. When I take a look at this, I'm going to see my layer here. And this kind of ties also into the whole editing your work, which was my next page in the slide. I can click this to my heart's content. This icon doesn't mean a darn tootin' thing, and I want to fill out a feature summary or put in my little suggestion for Epicore that remove the button if it doesn't do anything. I need to go in here, click on the entry, click on my new layer, even though I'm not making a layer, go to change layer, and then select the one that I want to work with. That's a little bit unintuitive in my book, but you can still get to it and still work with it. When I'm looking at this grayed out area, this is kind of like the top level of the tree. There's not really anything here, but it's the data binding that's connecting to the revision. Then when I'm here, it's the details tab that displays the data that was bound to the revision that was inside the details tab inside the main part screen. Does that make sense, Beth?
That makes sense. Thank you. And we have another question that came in from Brian. He wants to know, how do you adjust the tree view on a Kinetic form?
I can kind of adjust the tree view. If I want to add another item, edit the item. There was a tree control when I was bouncing through the nodes. Now again, I'm going to have fun here and try and find it. But for my revision, I have detail. I can add page, edit page, delete pages, add actions and buttons, but I got to find the control that allowed me to affect the tree view. Where are you? Wouldn't have been there. It would have been at the bottom of one of these. Example. Yeah. Here's my tree for it. So inside the events for the component, I can control the tree, what happens inside the tree. But are you looking to modify like the engineering workbench tree view node of the parts? This is over for Brian Kennedy. I know you set the question out there.
Right. Moving around location. Mm-hmm.
Are you saying moving data around the location or moving?
Can you hear me, Calvin?
Oh, awesome. I tried to hit the unmute button, but I wasn't sure if it sent you the message.
No problem. No, I guess one of the locations that, or one of the forms I played around with is our quote entry form, and adding a new, yeah, and it was just kind of adding in a new, I guess, page, but I still wanted this new page to show up in a tree view. It's a connection to a UD table that I want connected to this particular proposal.
But you're looking to add a page to the whole tree? Is this going to be your own panel with data?
Yes.
In it? Okay. So you're going to be adding a data, then adding an object to the tree.
Yep.
Let's go back to our application map here. So I can have slide out panels. I can have these here. So let me drag this over. Now I have a link over to something you really can't see. Let me see if I can maximize this screen. So here's my new page. I just turn around, hit add. Now it's added into the tree.
Okay.
Is that what you were meaning?
Well, it's actually when you're previewing the module, and on the left tree view side, as you add items or pages, just to try to put that page in the position I want to put it in on that tree view when you're previewing it.
I would think that you would need to add the node here and bind it to the data, not up on the top.
Okay.
Let me get rid of this one here. So when I'm on my revision detail, I'm going to have the detail here. Add another tab or a tab page or a content. If I go, I wanted this further down, next to the detail. Name, caption. Ah! Okay, don't click that too fast. Parent form here. Then I would add the node underneath it, but I want to turn around and change where it's bound to. AP binding. It's okay, there we go. I want you tagged to the details. Oh dear, which details did it put it in? I'm going to say there's multiple details in here. Revision detail, there you are. Now my tab should be tagged in with the revision detail down here, but I'm not seeing it in here. Tab gear order. I saw that it pulled it off up here, but I didn't see where it added under this one. I haven't added anything onto my tab yet. Do you see a tab item in here? No, continue, go back into it. Yeah, it's not letting me add to these. But I think this is what you would end up doing, is adding a tab to the item, setting the item as its parent, called revision detail. This keeps going up to parent form. It should be revision detail is where we want it. But it's not letting me change the parent form here. This is where I would think that you would end up doing this, is adding the tab to it, then linking it to the revision detail. The revision detail is the item that should be linking it to. but I'm not seeing the application map get refreshed here.
Is it further down on your application map?
Oh. Rev detail, it threw it down here
Okay.
under co-parts. So somehow we got linked to the co-parts and they got thrown down here, all the different tabs that we were adding.
Mm-hmm.
Kill you. Rev detail 2 is mine. Come on. But yes, this is going to be a case of, it's going to take a little time to get familiar with how to turn around and build these.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, we have another question from Andres. How do you customize the kinetic search on a form? For example, in Job Tracker, there's the search box on the main form. Actually, he says on the jobs form, sorry about that, but I don't see search as a separate node in the tree view. I'd like to default it to released, but not sure where.
Okay. Anyone happen to know what they call Job Tracker offhand?
Not called Job Tracker anymore.
Job closing schedule.
Job entry form, he says.
Ah, okay. Job entry material, and there we are. So you're looking to add a search to the job entry when it comes up. We'll just take a look at by default what it looks like. Sure. Go ahead and save that.
Andrus is looking to give you some input here, Calvin. Andrus, I just unmuted you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so if you go on, just open up the jobs.
This one
in the
here.
preview mode. Yep. And then in the very top, there's the box that you enter the job number, and you just open that. Yep, just hit the search icon, the page with yep, there you go, magnifying glass. And when that opens up, it opens up a search window. And on that search window, it's got a bunch of fields in there, like the usual search window that we see. And in there, it's got a drop down with the different types of job statuses, completed, released, whatever. And while you were doing this, I figured, well, that seems to be easy. Let me just default it to 1. And then I got stuck when I couldn't even figure out where to default it and where even the drop down list is showing up on that, how to edit even that search window in the first place. You're not creating a whole new separate search, but figured that, okay, that's an easy window to make a quick edit to, and let me get my feet wet with customizing Kinetic.
Okay, and you're looking to change what you're searching on?
So if you take a look at the default search on the jobs
one
page,
that we're in.
Yep, and just click on that page of that sheet with the magnifying glass right next to the word job number. Yep, click on that. And then that brings up a search box with a bunch of stuff in it. And I don't know if you have to get into preview mode or.
You might have to get out of edit mode to bring that search up.
And so it brings up that. So I thought that maybe that was a slide out panel, but I didn't see one called search. And so I didn't quite know where to start so I could start customizing that. You know, and I know we've got the same stuff we do with quick searches and all that, and I didn't know if we can customize it here, or do I need to replace it completely with a quick search and even just a default, you know, add a couple of default settings.
Can I get back to it while I'm in it? I may not be able to.
That search might be a different form.
Yep, that's what I was trying to get to, is the top level. Sure, we didn't change anything. Now, I need to get out of here and back to the main studio. Don't save.
So you're thinking it might be a completely separate form independent of job entry that it would be called?
Might be. It might be. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And it might be used anywhere that you're searching for a job number. Because
Okay,
it would
which
make
makes
sense to reuse the code instead of writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not sure if we can find like a job search or a job num search. I did notice when Calvin brought up the properties on one thing, it showed some empty braces.
That was on the other.
Yeah, so that you might be able to do something by putting like a property name, colon, and a value, like you would for JSON.
Oh, okay.
And it might do that. The trick would be finding out what that property name is, and it will be case sensitive. So the property name and its value are both case sensitive. So tracking that down could be difficult if that's the way to do it. And I'm not sure that that's the proper way, but seeing those blank braces made me think of that.
Yeah.
And maybe they don't allow the searches to be customized. I was looking to see if Amy was online. Tim, I know you're showing up in the panel, Tim, if you want to join in, if you have any insights as well. He may have stepped away. He had some meetings to get to. And I wasn't sure what time those were.
Do user traces show anything like that, or would you use something like Fiddler and just really to intercept a call?
You could do the traces. What I found better than the traces is if you bring up the item using the web pages and then use something like Fiddler to track it down, or Chrome extension to just see what's being called. That usually gives you more information with the Kinetic versions than the trace does.
Yep.
And you can see exactly what API is being called, and that might help point you in the right spot.
Okay, and that's just using, you know, hitting F12 in the browser and.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Now, because it is a search form, the trace might be just as good in this case.
Yeah.
Because you would be bringing up the form, and you're looking to edit the form. So I think the trace would have the form name in it. I know when I get to doing some of my API calls, the Chrome extensions work much better because they're telling you exactly what's going between the browser and the application server.
Yeah.
And sometimes in the trace calls, you're not necessarily seeing every call that's being made. And some of them you have to make every call or something doesn't get set right. So those would be the places I would look without digging too far.
Sure.
You know, I'm kind of throwing out guesses here, but they seem logical.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll keep kicking the tires.
It's a case of getting, it is, it's a getting your feet wet with what all's out there, and where did they put the function now?
And Matt is saying his search may be its own app in the main app list. I think that's what we were kind of thinking, was maybe it'd be its own form.
No, I was thinking the filters for the whole data set itself, putting a static filter or putting a filter, but parent, child. Was job search in there? No. On the data view, if there was a search for it. Nope, not seeing it in here, Andres.
All right, well, I'll keep poking too.
Okay. When you find it, let us all know. I mean, it's going to be an education for everybody in here.
Yeah. Yeah, FAU's just been fantastic with examples and to follow along with it. So
Yes,
thanks,
and
Kevin.
Matthew Heck said, is the search maybe its own app? And we went looking for it in the app list. We didn't find it as its own application out there. So I'm going to say the search is probably tied off one of the data objects so that we know how to get to the data, not necessarily on the form, but a search that would be on the Epi data view. Any other questions? Andrew's customizing job tracker.
Yep, there's one in here. Not sure if this sounds correct, but will the product configurator be using the application studio concept? And that's from Mel.
I was looking for my crystal ball over here. I forgot to put it on my desk. I'm not sure where the product configurator with the KB Max, where that product is going. Or if the configurator is still going to be a classic interface. I'm going to say they probably need to move some of it over to Kinetic because that's going to be the core behind the enhanced quality module. Anyone know where Epicore is taking the product configurator and the Kinetic interface for it?
Tim, are you online? Nope, doesn't look like Tim is. I was hoping he might have an answer for it.
Okay, Blake would like you to, he said, could you show an example of adding a BAQ grid to an application layer?
So here's our lovely application layer here for jobs. Just happen to be in here. How convenient. So if I want to turn around and add an object onto here, I'm going to look at my components of what I have to work with. Combo boxes out here. I thought I saw a grid somewhere in here. Yes, I have a grid out here as well. What are we looking at doing, Blake? Grid or a combo box?
Grid.
Of course, after I pick combo box, let's go back and get the grid. So I've got a grid. I'm just going to throw it here up in the dates for the job. It's not going to be pretty on the job screen.
And Blake, I went ahead and unmuted you in case you need to hop in for direction at any point here.
Thanks, Fred. Yeah, and bonus points, if you bind maybe to the job number.
Oh, binding the data set to it.
Yeah.
Had to find my data views. Now, if I have a BAQ out there, I can do a new view. Give me the name for my data. Where are my relations? Job head, you said?
Yep. Yeah, just job head, job num. Do you know where we're headed to? I do not. Is that you're bringing in a data view into the layer, or is there?
Correct. Adding a data view to it. If I choose a BAQ, what's my BAQ ID? Do you happen to know, anybody know a job BAQ out there?
Just try like
On the
Z
pen.
job head or something.
Customer jobs, yay. So, add my relationship. Whoa, I think I double clicked. No. Job head underscore job num. Thank you, you're in there. Like, I didn't make it. I'm really guessing here, dude. I don't need to apply a static filter or anything. I'm going to say the head company and job number are going to be my connectors between this. That adds my data to this. We're still in my job entry world. Now, where did my grid go? I may need to add a new panel onto here. I didn't click anything, but it's moving around. How's that go? I didn't do it. Honestly, I didn't. New panel card. Come on. The magic of getting it into the form. I didn't see where it put the panel. Did anyone see where it went? demand, make to order, make to stock, co-parts, resolution, people, comments. Now it looks like it's putting. Let's head over to the job head one. It looks like it's adding it, but I don't seem to see it getting adding.
And we have a feature request from Matthew Heck. Please highlight newly added bits on the layer so that you don't have to search where it randomly threw it.
So when I click on this, I want to add my panel into here. And every time I try to add it, it yells at me. Down to the letter G. Come on, here we go. It sure looks like I put it out there, but then nothing ever shows up. No, it is not letting me add it into it. And I add it to another area. Let's try editing the detail and see if we can just throw it on there. I think this is where we attempted our first edition of it. Go parts, resolution, project. Haha, now it turned around and put my grid in there. Data. I'm like, I did click on it. Really, I did. Okay, I did hit plus. It added the 1. I'm trying to select my Epi data view. Wait, I lost the Epicore screen. Height, weight, row size. Okay. And what did we call that data? My data? Yes. I don't know if we have any linked customers and jobs in that BAQ because we didn't test that the BAQ even worked. I'm like, I did try and click on it. And where did we put that? That was in serial numbers. Anyone remember where we put that? Or we'll go back out of preview mode and take a look at it. I think. Let's close a few things also. We may have too much open. This was on the job details. We put it into job details. Okay. In this version, we are not licensed for project management, so the link between customer and jobs is not going to get us too far. I used a BAQ that goes through the projects.
It's okay. It definitely did a great job
The
showing
idea
the
of
gist of it.
adding the data view to it, binding it to the BAQ, setting your relationships on what field link, keeping them in sync, then turning around and adding your data grid, binding your grid to that BAQ FE data view. And it was just a case of keep the name of what you called your BAQ. I left it very generic, called my data. Otherwise, we could have turned around and written a BAQ ourselves, add that data view to the BAQ, bind the BAQ to the job table or whatever table we're linking it to, and then add the data grid or the drop-down box to it and what we're displaying in that grid. Does that make sense, Blake?
Yep, that was exactly what we needed. Thanks.
Okay. So after taking a look at the PowerPoint, we'll hop back in here. Getting to your layers, I put the notes here in here. Clicking on this does nothing. Clicking on the edit for the parent layer then clicking new layer, change to the layer you want to edit, select that, and then click the edit button to select the layer that you're looking to work on. This is a little, in my book, unintuitive, but it was the way that I found to be able to get to my layer that I wanted to work on. Editing your work was just it. Go in and add the objects to it. Take a look at what I can do to the items. What can I track? How do I bind its data? This is going to work very similar. It's just if you think of writing in customization mode, using only like the data wizards, using the wizards that were built into the customization without going into the customization code window. Again, the data, the views, we turned around and added a view to ours. We added a BAQ to it for Blake and said, okay, bind my grid to my BAQ. We just forgot to test that it was a working BAQ first. Any custom fields that you put behind those data views. So I went in and I added a field to the job header table. I added it to the job assembly. Those fields will be available here in the data views for it. Epicore is pulling those back, and you should have access to anything in the base, as well as anything in your customizations that you added to them in the data views. Setting up those parent-child relationships with my data. The column settings, what am I going to show? What's the format? How do I want to lay it out? Any tools or additional things I want to add to it, any static filters I would have put into it, and do I ask the user, do you want to save these changes? If I'm updating data with an updatable BAQ, I'm probably going to confirm those changes and settings before I just go commit them. When you publish the record, just because I hit save repeatedly, doesn't mean I published the application in Application Studio. It's not until I go up here and hit publish. Then it's going to show that this is a published item. I can actually use it. I can deploy it on menus. Let me go ahead and close a few because as you saw, it does start slowing down the more you get into this. Where's my part entry one? After you hit publish is when you'll see this come as an availability, when it was created, the date, any information that I put on that. When I did the publish, that becomes available inside here under the application. Saving it and previewing it does not put it into here. It's not until you turn around and publish that application that it becomes available for people to use. Inside my part system, I just threw everything in there. I played around with it. I was just trying to do this, and we got the cancellation this morning. I said, I'll go ahead and do Application Studio for everybody. We'll kind of review how the system works and how it was laid out. Inside my part details, I just kept drilling and, okay, what all can I do? What settings can I change on the different fields, on the different objects, and the different panels? Getting familiar with what did Epicore expose? What did they put out there for us to work with? The properties pane is going to become your buddy. It's going to show you what all can I do? What are the properties or attributes that I can set on this object, or what all can I do with it, with the object? The properties pane is going to become kind of crucial because when you right click on an object in customization mode, you always went to the properties, see what can I do with it, what's usable. The toolbox is the counterpart to the properties. These are the objects, and as you saw, this was longer of a scroll list, so I didn't try to add it to the presentation here. But go in and take a look at what all you can do inside this toolbox, it's a whole lot larger than Epicore versions before 11 ever had in that toolbox editor. User-defined actions, we talked about the user-defined functions. Those can be imported and exported using the function manager. Widgets can be shared. Go ahead and take a look. By default, the website widget is out there from Epicore. That's just a web browser widget. The object pane over here was the save, the preview or test, and then also in the triple dots was the publish and publish to history. Till you do that, save and publish, it's not going to be available for anyone. Can I get back into it and pick up where I left off? Yes. I can go back, drill in, pull back my layer, continue working on it. It's not until you publish it that it becomes available for other people. Where are we on time? Am I doing okay?
You're 5 minutes into the next session.
Oops, sorry. We'll try and wrap up here.
It's okay, you're one of
Above
the
and
jumps.
beyond. Okay. So going above and beyond, the Kinetic Help is a shortcut that I put here for everybody. This goes out to the Kinetic world. Just hitting Epicore Help and just hitting F1, taking a look at what's in there. The application studio is out here, converting classic customizations, working with components, working with data rules. It's just a case of digging through. This is a whole lot more complex than we ever had in customization mode in prior versions of Epicore. I'm going to say with the development of the application studio and the newer teams there at Epicore, this is now being created and maintained and documented as it moves forward. That could also be a little feather in Amy's hat. I'm not going to turn around, put it in there, but I'll let her know, hey, she came from the education world. I'm sure she brought some of that with her and made sure that this is documented for our usage to move forward. I didn't think I needed to put the E10 Help group out here in case anybody wants it. By all means, head out to the E10 Help website. There are lots of discussions going on about application kinetic development. This is the #1 thing that are hitting people because we need to get our solutions moved over to the new version, which is where Epicore is moving off to. Finally, any open more Q&A? Mike McWilliams turned around and said here for the search, look at the event called the execute key field search. Then click on the search show and choose the properties, and in the parameters there are options you can change with the search form. So Mike, turn around and put an answer for your searching the jobs. Thanks, Mike. That's awesome. Hey, takes one off my plate.
Any other questions? If you want to type them in, and while folks might be typing, did you want to take a short break before Stump the Chump or jump right into it, Calvin?
I'm going to hit the little boys' room down the hall. I had lunch, but I need to take a break down the hall.
Okay. How about we take a quick 5-minute break and we'll start Stump the Chump up. I got 2:44 would be in 5 minutes. Give everybody a bio break and then we'll continue on.
So perfect. Awesome. If you have any questions, by all means, go ahead and throw them over. I am not normally a application studio developer. I turned around when Jose said, hey, I can't come in today. I'm like, I will keep the topic moving. We'll go ahead and get everybody at least up to speed on the basics of how Kinetic is structured. And then again, for the people that are moving forward, by all means, go ahead and play with it, start utilizing it, come back. And if you're ready or willing to show any presentations or any work that you've already built, by all means, let's look at that for the May meeting just before Insights.